Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be kind of going through the process that I take when it comes to doing taking one of our designer's Zeppelin designs and converting it into the actual component. So pretty much taking it from the ticket all the way to building out the interface, to building out the UI, and then adding in the logic to the components. So this is going to be a three-part series. In this first one, I'm just going to talk about mainly how I go about looking at this design that we have here and how I go with talking with our developers, the backend developer, and trying to figure out exactly what type of interface we need, what information they're going to be sending, I need to send to them in the backend versus what they send to me on the front end, so on and so forth. So up to this part, pretty much everything has already been done to the point of design. So the designs have been approved by the customer, have been approved by the client, and we've already talked through how the functionality of this component right here, this add and edit link will work. This is the ticket that I'm going to be making, and I'm just going to kind of go through what I do for the process. So again, this will be the first video here. And I can just go ahead and just jump right on into it. So the first thing I like to do before I even open up or start doing any coding or anything like that is to actually kind of take a look at the designs and kind of get a rough idea of what I need to do or what I'm building. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of look at the story, look at the where I'm using it and like how it's being used. So right off the bat, my component that I'm going to be building is going to be this add link and edit link. So at first they look like two different components, but as I look at them, I look really closely at everything in here and they're pretty much identical. One looks like just a filled out version of the other one. So I kind of take that into consideration and I'll explain a little bit more of that in a second here. So that's one of the things I look for is if, hey, is this going to be two components or is it going to be one? And I can tell you right off the bat that this will be one component just because of how similar they look. So that kind of makes it a little easier for the most part. But anyway, so the next thing I do is I look to see where that component is being used on this page. So I open the Zeppelin, and there's a lot of stuff on here. There's a whole other video about all of, how to use Zeppelin, so I'm not going to go over that. But I know that this link is going to be coming from this button right here. For the purpose of this video, this has actually already been built out, but I'm going to be doing it in a different part of the app, of the website, so that we can see kind of just the start to beginning process there. So I can already tell here that this is where the link's going to be going. I can click on the behavior and it says, hey, add link pop-up. And then if you click on one of these down here on click, it's going to bring, when you click on one of the links, it's going to bring up the link in a way that you can edit it and everything like that. So I'll look here and just kind of look at where it's being used, what page it's being used on. So that's going to help me with some information later on. Then I kind of go into the component here. Just roughly look at it, look at everything here, see again, if I can already tell that, hey, it's going to be an add or an edit component. There's two parts there. Looks like there will be a delete pop-up that will come, but it's not going to come from this page, so I don't need to worry about that. So once I have that, the next step that I will do is I typically like to go and reach out to whoever is going to be building the API endpoint for this. And just kind of talk to them about, hey, first off, do you already have something built out? What does the interface look like? If not, well, let's talk through an interface and talk through what we would expect. And so for me, I like to take my code actually and just open up a Scratch file. So let me just pull open my admin site here. I like to open up a Scratch file and just more or less make an interface. And just kind of just call it like add edit interface. And this is the part where I'll sit there and actually like sit there and talk with the person who's doing the rest. We'll sit down, we will pull up this design right here, and we'll kind of talk through like, hey, what am I going to need to do to send to you to add this? So some other things about this page is when you add a link, it doesn't necessarily go immediately out and create. It won't send an API request. It's actually going to come back to this page and it's going to show data on this page, and then the user has to click save up here. If we click on this unsave, we're going to see the save changes, add link button stuff here. So the save changes will actually save the new link there. Um, so what that means for me is I need to pretty much like to help out whoever's working on this page. I want to make this pop up as unique as possible. So what I'll end up doing is I will try to figure out what data the whoever's building the API needs sent to them, and I want to pretty much make that the data that I have this thing do a callback for. This will send all the collected data for that user for what exactly they need, or pretty much almost exactly close to it. So um, right off the bat, when I look at the add, we'll start with this one, and then we'll kind of go to the edit, and we'll explain that here. I'll explain that in a second. So when I look at this add link one, right off the bat, I'm just going to see that we are going to need an image. So this component's already been made, but what we're going to need is an image ID that's associated to the uploaded media. We're going to need some sort of title that gets sent back. It looks like this link is hard coded in there, but that's still probably data that's going to be needed for this component. So we're going to need a type, which is going to be a string value. That's other things I'm looking at too. So let's just kind of, I'll build this as we talk here. So we're going to need, I'd say, an image ID. That's going to be a number. I'm going to need a title. That's going to be a string. I'm going to need a type, and that's probably going to be more like more strict of a string there. So in this case, it's going to be a link. We'll just say link as what it needs to be. Kind of looking in here, flare. So flare looks like it's going to be a maximum character. Let's see, we can click on all caps. That's what it is. So this again just looks like it's going to be in our string here. So we're going to go ahead and go flare. Look at that. Status looks like if we click on it, the different options is going to be hidden and visible. So what we like to call status is active. So is active. And that's a Boolean. It's going to be a true or false. And then an app URL. And that's going to be a string as well. So like right off the bat, that's how I kind of build out this interface. And usually I do this before I even go talk to who's doing the API endpoint or anything like that. So that way I can already come to them with, hey, this is what I'm thinking we should build. But this is not quite done. This kind of more or less handles just the add a link part to this. So if we kind of come into the edit link, well, now we can kind of see that there's going to be a little bit more information in here. So like we're going to have to display the image when it comes in. So maybe when they click that edit link button, it comes in here, we're going to have to take in a value of like a media. So for me, I would most likely take this image ID and just change this into media. And then we have models.media, but this is a scratch file, so it's not going to map right. So we'll just put media for the time being. Let's see, we go back here. We have to know which one we're editing. That's another big part. So that's going to be an ID, and that's going to be an optional value because we can figure out if they're editing or if it's a new one, pretty much if there is an ID passed on, and I'll kind of explain that logic a little later of why I do that. But looking at everything else here, all this stuff, I mean, it's all needed, but in all reality, all this stuff is optional for when it comes on in. For what will get passed into it, but passing back like an on save or that on apply button, when we push this, we're going to need to send at a minimum that media ID, all this stuff. I mean, ID won't be with it if it's a crate because we haven't created one, but we're pretty much going to send all of this stuff back with it. Another thing to kind of consider when you're looking at a component like this, right, especially the way that we're doing these pages, is that this doesn't actually go off and do an API request right away. So we have to somehow display it down here as a new item. And he's going to need that media. He's going to need some of this information passed back right away. So that's going to be another reason why I'm not just going to send back the media ID. I'm going to send back all the media that I get when I upload that. So um, this is kind of what I take off right at the bat and go talk to the person who's doing the back end for this uh, for this build, and we'll talk through it and we'll kind of get some more nitty gritty of exactly what's going on. So I actually have down here the interface that we decided to go with when it comes to this actual one, and we'll use this when I start making the component. And you can kind of see this is the actual one for the what's new pop-up or link what's new. And we do a extend of a what's new link, which is this, and we take out media ID. We change the type to be a link, and we do pass in the media object. So this is pretty much right on. Obviously, there's some other stuff in here that I didn't omit out, but it's all right. We're not using it. The modified on or create on or the order, that's more or less for the main page where this product gets used. But so that's in a nutshell how I go about looking at a component before I even start to build out it. It's, usually takes a little longer as you're talking back and forth, and then the best thing to do is if the person who is doing your REST side you guys are sitting there actually building that API.d.ts for it. And as soon as it's done, you guys both agree on it, you get that merge, get a merge request sent up for it, get it merged, and then that way you can start building with exactly what you decided with what interface you think should work. In my experience, there has been a lot of times that this actually has changed a little bit from the initial, but it just makes life so much easier as a developer when when the front end guy and the REST guy have an object that they're building towards where they know, hey, this is going to be the data that I take in to the REST side, and this is the data that I'm going to be sending you. So when it comes to building components like a pop-up, it becomes a lot easier. So this was just a kind of a quick down and dirty video on what I do when it comes to before I even start code and just how to build out the interface. Doing just this little bit of legwork will help you tremendously in the long run for building out components and building them out with less bugs and less issues when you try to connect them to the back end. So thanks for watching. In the next video, I'm going to be going over just building out the UI of this component and getting everything laid out in the ways that I do it and the ways that I found to work really well. So thanks for watching.